Good morning, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of our rant series. Today we have part 3 of bad album covers by very notable bands alongside Martin Popoff. Martin, good morning. How are you today?
Yeah,
Bright and
good
early
morning.
we are.
Doing great. This is cool getting to talk to something that's not, hard rock, heavy metal all the time. So I don't get to talk about these bands very often. So
Yeah, I think we have 4 bands here we're going to talk about that. Yeah, are a little off the beaten path. That don't fall into the metal category. They don't fall into the prog category. You can kind of call a couple of these hard rock bands, I guess, but sort of borderline, right? But so we've got, for those of you who wanted us not to divulge who we're going to do before we start talking, we're not going to say who they are. So Martin, let's kick it off with your first pick.
Okay,
I'll hold up. You want me to hold up anything yet, or you just want to?
Yeah, sure. I'll just hold up some of them early ones, and we'll there we go. So there's our band, the Rolling Stones. Pete and I talked about this, and we came up with a few other bands. I mean, the first bands we did in those first 2 episodes were the ones that almost felt like aggressively had bad album covers, and now I think we're into a range where it's like, they're just not doing it for us in total. But Rolling Stones obviously is a band with a massive catalog. There's some more early stuff that over time, there's some good ones, some not great ones. But again, the reason we're picking these 4 bands is because in total, the sum aggregate of them all is not a great track record. There's another early one. So yeah, to start off with the early albums. In the early days, album covers were basically like, let's identify the band, the album cover, let's show what these guys look like. And in a lot of cases early on, you'd even put the names of the hits right on the cover. So the Rolling Stones covers start off, very unimaginative.
I would say this one a little bit too. I mean, these were kind of grungy looking guys back in the early days.
Yeah. They were punk rockers, man. They were hard looking dudes, right? So yeah, they were the bad boys versus the Beatles, who were the the good guys, right? And then here they are, looking all sullen and black and white, ready to mug you, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, that's like they're hanging out down the alley, right? Like you don't want to go down that alley because you don't know what's waiting for you down there.
But as time goes on, here we go. The pictures get a little more artistic, and so does the text. You get up into the likes of Satanic Majesty's Request. Here we go, Aftermath. That's one of the early classics, right? Fuzzy cover on purpose. And here we go. So this is their attempt at Psych. It's a little bit tongue in cheek, I suppose, and a little bit like we're going to throw ourselves in. But here they are. Not a bad album cover, but again,
it's kind of like their Sgt. Pepper album.
Yeah, right? Just trying to look really Psych. Then you get up into the likes of so that's Beggar's Banquet, right? The UK version. And over here we got the white cover with the the swoopy text to make it look kind of ironic, like, oh, here's a Beggar's Banquet sort of thing. So the album covers, that's a pretty ugly album cover, and so is the other Beggar's Banquet. We've got Let It Bleed. So I never liked that one. I never thought that was a great album cover. I mean,
there's people that love this though.
Yeah.
For its absurdity, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. The live albums at the time, you've got Get Your Ya-Ya's out, and then what else? So you got Sticky Fingers at the time. So Sticky Fingers, there's an interesting one. I've got my box set version of that one. So this is like an Andy Warhol factory shot. It came with an actual working zipper that, scratched up the album in front of it. And apparently it wrecked the vinyls too. So, the zipper didn't last very long, but that's a pretty cool cover, and it's conceptual.
It's pretty iconic, actually. Yeah, pretty iconic.
Yeah, and as we're going to see with Rolling Stones also, as you move on, they do some of these, Alice Cooperish type things where there's some gimmickry to it as well to enhance these pretty boring images, really, that we get. So Exile, here we go. I mean, this, I took a note down. Mick said this was to express the runaway outlaws using the blues as its weapon against the world, showcasing feelings of youthful isolation, grinning in the face of scary and unknown future. So this is them in their Grateful Dead, American Beauty phase. A great double album, an amazing album, probably maybe their best album, right? But the album cover, again, kind of messy and not so great. So we aren't loving these album covers, really. as we're going on here. There's just too much cognitive dissonance going on. Yeah, we've got, so this is the photo, and inside they're all wrapped in this chiffon thing and chiffon. And Mick was supposed to, the idea was to look like Catherine Hepburn in African Queen or whatever it was called there, right?
Which I think works, but I just, my problem with this album cover is like, what does the title have to do with anything?
Yeah,
here?
exactly.
Head soup.
Yeah, the titles don't really line up all the time, and it's a ugly color and it's wishy-washy. A lot of fuzzy photography with this band, right?
Yeah.
It's only rock and roll. So here we've got the Dutch artist that did the Rock Dreams themes book. So this is them looking kind of like a rock deity. Not a bad album cover.
No,
but again, the colors and all that, not great.
And I don't know, I never had the LP of this, but did they have the name or the logo on the front of that either?
I can't recall. I bet it was different in different territories, but that's kind of cool. I mean, Stones did a lot of that where, you're not getting the full text and that all the time. So
I grabbed this one. This is kind of like a little kind of collection of rarities and B-sides, Metamorphosis, which...
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good album. I like those albums, but again, the cover's kind of silly and the colors are not great.
Yeah.
And I mean, it matches the title, I suppose. Moving on, we got Black and Blue possibly next, right?
Yep.
Yeah, not a terrible album cover. Again, bringing back the idea of the guys on the cover, they're looking black and blue, the blue eyes and stuff. Yeah, so it's kind of a cool artistic shot. That is probably my personal favorite Rolling Stones album. That and Exile. I like Tattoo You a lot. Yeah, it pulled it out that way. We had Love You Live around this time, so it's a second Andy Warhol situation. So that's your classic, iconic, pastel-y Andy Warhol colors. You've got Some Girls behind me here. Here's my box set of that. So that again, the idea there. It's not a great looking cover, but it's artistic. It's kind of cool. And it had the, just like a Led Zeppelin Physical Graffiti, where it had the die cut thing in there. And the whole idea there, Mick said, was to celebrate that English tradition of cross-dressing and how some boys and some girls could be some boys and some boys could be some girls. So yeah, it's kind of an artistic thing. We move on to this one next. So this, these are thermographic photos. Shot by, what was his name? I think this is a Peter Corriston photography. But the neat thing about this is that I believe, I can't remember exactly how it worked, but I think the whole LP was surrounded by a poster of more of this stuff. And then it was in a plastic bag of some sort. But really ugly cover, not a great cover. And then you get to Tattoo You, which... this one, a Grammy, I think, for the cover, but I don't think it's that great a cover. It's again, Peter Corriston. So it's kind of artistic and cool.
It's very artistic. I think it's definitely improvement over Emotional Rescue.
All this sort of Some Girls through all the way really even to Dirty Work has this sort of New York feel to it. The abstract school of artists, the Andy Warhol school, urban artists. So next is Undercover, right? Undercover first, and is it Dirty Work and Undercover?
I don't know. I've lost.
Yeah, I think it's in this order. So basically, this was not a great cover either, but I believe these stickers, it came with loose stickers that you could either peel off or put on or something like that. I can't quite recall. This Pitchfork actually rated this one of the worst covers of all time. And it was because of it. It said something about Valhalla-esque, these superhero band, and then it's so 80s with those pastel colors and stuff.
Oh, it's like they're going for the what's the name of the TV show that had the guys dressed in all these weird colors? Just
I can't
completely blank on it now.
Yeah, Pee Wee Herman almost.
Miami Vice type of thing.
Oh yeah, Miami Vice. Yeah, Miami Vice suits. So this is kind of like all of these sort of have that New York feel to them.
It's like the streets, right? Streets. It's a street vibe. Yep.
And abstract expression. Steel Wheels, not a terrible cover, but not great. And I think they carried that over onto the tour. That was the first time I saw them live. They played an 80,000 seater outdoor Toronto venue with Living Color backing up. We were just impossibly far away.
I saw that tour too. Yeah, it was tons of people.
Yeah,
tons of people.
And so what do we have next? Is it Voodoo?
This awful cover.
Oh, yeah. So another bad cover. So now the covers are just not great, right? We got Bridges to Babylon in this area. So not terrible, but not great. But and again, gimmicky. It came with the the CD oversleeve. Here's one of their live albums for Bigger Bang, and then there's the Bigger Bang here. So what is Rolling Stones going for? I mean, they're not going for in most cases they're not going for like there we go. They're not going for a simple iconic image on the album cover. They already have the iconic image in the Lips logo, right? So they don't have a logo in terms of logo text. They do have the Lips thing, but they don't use it a lot. And all of these albums, they're just all very different. They're semi-simple images, right? But they're also going for an artistic feel. How do these line up with the Chris Allo rule of trying to make something for T-shirt art? In most cases, not really. I don't think that's anything they had in mind in all this. We forgot Still Life, one of the horrible, horrible live album covers, right? And that could fit in our live album, disappointing live album thing, right? I saw one of the comments, because it was a single album too, right? And it's a bad song selection. Even Love You Live is not particularly, impressive as a live album.
Not at all.
I mean, so there you go. I mean, in total, I think Rolling Stones do belong in this field of, in the aggregate across all those album covers, the percentage of really great ones is pretty low.
Pretty low. And what's interesting is that early on, and we showed them all those early albums, just them on the front in various locales and positions. It's like, all right, we want to make sure everybody knows who we are, what we look like. We may not look great, but there we are. And then as they start to become a really mega band and everybody knows who they are, all of a sudden they're appearing on their album covers less, and they have all these weird abstract images and things like that. So kind of interesting how they went in that direction, right? Yeah. All right, so next up, how about a little Fleetwood Mac?
Let's do it.
Okay, so here's the very, very first album, all right?
That's garbage. Literally.
Garbage. Yeah,
literally.
So these are the streets of we don't know where. Is this London? Is this New York? Who the hell knows? It's just a dog looking for scraps on a pretty lousy looking side street. And we don't know much about the band or anything else. That's their debut. This next one is probably one of the worst album covers ever. I love Mick. He's a Mick Fleetwood, great drummer, cool guy, but I don't want to see a skeletal, scared shitless looking Mick Fleetwood on the cover of an album. I mean, this is frightening. He's white as a ghost. Like, what were they thinking here? Yeah. Is this like going to sell millions based on that? I don't think so. Same thing. That's the Mr. Wonderful album. How about the Pious Bird of Good Omen? Again, another very strange album cover. I don't know, Martin. I look at this,
right?
And I
think the Deviant's album cover. That's kind of like that, right?
Yeah, it's just. But this is basically a blues band, and here you look at this, and it's kind of like, kind of ominous looking in a weird way, right? So you got that early stuff, and then you have Then Play On, which whatever, you can maybe kind of like this, kind of not. I think great album, but the album cover, whatever. Then you got Kiln House, which again doesn't really represent the music, although this is after Peter Green has left. This is a little more of a mellow album, but still it's kind of like it looks like a drawing that a kid would make. I don't know, don't love it. Then you have Bare Trees. I mean, it totally exemplifies the title of the album, but
why call it that?
Exactly, right? Is this a Genesis album? I don't know. It's like and various ones of these were done by, I think Hypnosis did a couple of these. We're going to come across. Here's another one. This is the Future Games album. And my CDs are spilling all over the place here. I don't really care for this too much either. All right. It's, Kids by the Water. Okay. What that has to do with Future Games, I don't know. I guess future, the kids are the future, I guess. I don't know. One of the most bizarre ones they have, Mystery to Me.
Wow. This is a great choice because these are terrible.
And the sad thing is, these are all really good albums. And some of these ones we're looking at now, this is the Bob Welch era, and some fine music. And I think one of the most underrated eras of Fleetwood Mac that like nobody ever talks about, everybody ignores. You know, you talk about Fleetwood Mac, it's like always about the Buckingham Nicks era, everything on, you know, from the self-titled album on forward, you know, Rumors, all that stuff. Yeah, we love that Fleetwood Mac. Or you got the purists who just love the Peter Green era, the blues era. But man, the Bob Welch era in between, so good. And I guess the reason why it nobody talks about it because there's no like real consistent and steady kind of style going on in these albums. It's kind of moody. It's kind of got little bits of the California rock they would do, you know, when Stevie Nicks and Lindsay joined the band. There's a little bit of the blues. There's a little bit of prog, a little bit of psych, a little bit of folk. It's kind of like a little bit of everything, a little hard rock. But yeah, this is just a you know, kind of a, I mean, I like it from a like cartoony standpoint, but I just
looks like the Gentle Giant guy in the band.
Yeah, right. Or Gandalf the Magician or something from the Lord of the Rings. I don't know. And then you got Penguin.
They're so bad, right?
Yeah.
Talk about a band paying their dues. It's basically like Pink Floyd pre-Dark Side of the Moon, right? Like 7 albums or whatever, right? Pink Floyd, I mean, the Fleetwood Max just
even
you know,
more,
bumping along, doing like you say, this generalist music, right?
Yep. You ready for this one? Heroes are hard to find. I really don't want to see. I really don't want to see any more skeletal-looking guys, right, half naked on. I just,
man,
yeah. I will say this next one is an improvement. This is the self-titled Fleetwood Mac. So this is their first, you know, album with Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham. You know, kind of a weird artsy-looking cover. I guess it's still not great. And then they went for kind of a similar feel with, I mean, this is iconic, but is it a great album cover? I don't know. Yeah. It is iconic. I will give them that. But, and obviously one of the biggest selling albums of all time. But, yeah, I don't know. But wait, it gets better. I love dogs. As everybody knows who watches this channel, I got 3 dogs. I'm a big animal lover. But, you know, they waited a few years to put this next album out. And then this is the best they could do.
Yeah.
An angry dog going to like tear off someone's leg.
At least it's embossed, I think. The original vinyl was bumpy, right?
Yeah, well, it was because it was meant to look like an actual photograph. I don't know what it has to do with anything going on in this album or the name of the album. I don't even like the name of the album. I think this is one of those, probably maybe an idea for a future show, a double album that should have been a single album, is my opinion of Tusk. Keep that in mind. We may
it exemplifies the music a little bit in that it's very stripped down and primitive, right?
I guess, but probably way too much. As a follow-up to Rumors, I always thought Tusk was just awful. I mean,
but I mean the cover and the music.
The cover,
together,
right? Yeah. I don't know. It's very puzzling. And then you got Mirage. You know, more of this. Here we are looking exotic and sensual on the cover. I don't know.
We're corporate. We belong to the world. We're universal. This music for girls, music for anybody, right?
Yeah.
Music for, you know, casual music fans, radio fans. So the record covers look like, you know, Happy California, right?
What's interesting though is if you really look carefully. So here you've got, you know, Lindsay and Stevie kind of in some kind of weird embrace. They're no longer a couple, right? So yet she looks like, okay, whatever. But Lindsay's looking the other way. You got Christine behind him. It's almost like he's looking at her like, you know, I'm done with this chick over here. Why is she, you know, why are we doing this type of thing? It looks a little awkward. And then you got, you know, Tango in the Night, which, yeah, all right, painting, okay. Kind of just there.
Yeah.
And then you got Behind the Mask. Again, just kind of a puzzling album cover.
Very 90s feeling, very corporate.
Yeah. And then, you know, they got a decent shot of them on the back. And then another weird one, you got Say You Will. Again, with Lindsay and Stevie, it's like they really, really pushed this idea of the two of them always touching each other, holding each other, yet they hadn't been a couple by this point in time for what, 30 years or so.
And that looks like a true 2000s pop album, right? Like a Britney Spears album or whatever.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. But, you know, most of these albums are really, really good. So it's just, I think, especially some of the early ones, just think of what might have been if we didn't have these atrocious album covers, right? Which, you know, maybe to some seem a little artsy, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Not to me.
All right. Yeah, very cool.
All right.
Yeah, I think Pete won, me 0, because that's way worse than Rolling Stones. Way worse. That's just completely dull. It's just completely vanilla almost throughout. Vanilla or shocking or horrible, right?
Or a little bit of both, right?
Yeah, like that the Heroes one is almost like in trance bad, right? Yeah.
All right. So for Martin's next choice,
Yeah.
we've got
The Kinks, yeah. So again, the Kinks, I love the Kinks. You know, they're the original mod band, right? The Kinks and the Who, I suppose. And you know, just like the Rolling Stones, and frankly, just like the Who at the very beginning, anyways. Who got artsier faster, but the Kinks, you know, here we are. You know, you even show the hits on the cover, and so you get songs, you get pictures of the band. You're just identifying with them. You know, you're supposed to think these guys are good-looking guys and pinups and all that. So these basically look like the same as the Rolling Stones album covers until you start getting
a little cleaner though. Got the turtlenecks here and the tweed jackets. I mean, they're looking kind of well respected Kinks, as the title says, right?
Yeah. So as you move on, some more of the same. So you basically move on, and as soon as you get to the psychedelic era, that's when everybody starts loosening up with the likes of you. Here we go, with Arthur, Preservation Society, all of these, but they're not great covers. They're like trying to be. They're trying to be. Yeah, there you go. You're trying to be a little bit psychedelic, but the imagination isn't totally there. I mean, I like Arthur somewhat. You got Arthur handy? Yeah, there we go. I've got a deluxe version of that one here as well, right? So so that's I love this album. I mean, it's just one of my favorites.
And I actually don't mind this cover. It's kind of a little weird. I kind of dig this one a little bit.
Very English though, with the mug, you know, and everything, and it's just kind of modest and Beatle-esque. Just love the record as well. So what have you got there? Yeah,
you got Lola.
Yeah, so terrible cover, right? And then we're moving into the 70s here. So what do you got next?
Muswell Hillbillies.
Yeah, love that record as well, but another bad cover. So they're just, you know, they've got these generalist covers that are not that imaginative, and it kind of goes with their music. I mean, I love the Kinks, don't get me wrong, but their music is just extremely generalist. It's like, oh, we're rock and roll this, we're mellow that, or whatever. They're just, you can't put them in a box. Yeah, another horrible album cover. Here
you know, they're going like theatrical. This is kind of like we're like a Broadway style
concept
band.
album stage. There's another early one. What do you got there? Yeah, another horrible album cover. Great album though.
Yeah,
we've got Schoolboys. You know, so you've got illustration going on at this time. Yeah, Preservation Act 2. So, you know, good records, but they're just not making it with the album covers. Yeah, hate the soap opera album cover. Misfits is coming up soon, or Sleepwalker and Misfits. Yeah, not a terrible album.
I don't mind this one. I love this album. I mean, it's great.
It's totally one of my favorite. What is it, 77, 76, something like that, 77. Yeah. So, there's Misfits.
Is it me, or is he looking like John Anderson here?
Yeah, exactly. Would that be Dave? That's probably Dave. Eh?
That's Dave, that's Dave.
Yeah. So not a terrible album cover. So they're kind of artsy in the 70s. So, you know, this is when people aren't paying much attention. Yeah, terrible album cover there.
My favorite Kinks album.
Has to do.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Very close for me too as a favorite. You know, here they're a little bit like I guess a little like the Stones in going for a stark, semi-simple image. Again, it's not really t-shirt ready. They don't have their own logo, the Kinks. You know, it's basically, you know, it's whatever. It's anything goes every time they put out an album cover, and they're just not that memorable. The live album's a horrible album cover too. You know, the bad. I don't know if my hair's long or short. Dave there, right? You know, and again, they're you know, at times they're pushing Ray, at times they're pushing Dave. Here's Ray running away from a sign, you know, that says "Give the people what they want." Has nothing to do with it. Great album cover. That's a great album as well. Really like that one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then just more of the same. Here I've never noticed they match. I've never put those two.
They're still running away from something. We don't know what they're running away from, but you know, maybe one day they'll let us know, right?
Some tag in a wall, I presume, right? That's sort of the idea, right?
Yeah.
The wall or whatever. But yeah, and then we're into the so there's my vinyl of that and vinyl of that. So yeah, now you're just into these. This one is so 80s, right? It's just again just so Rolling Stones dirty work or whatever it's called, right? Word of mouth. And these records, they're all kind of starting to sound the same. You know, one thing I did notice, I've been playing these records a lot. The productions are horrible. They're just so stiff and mid-rangey, and the drum performances, I don't know. But you know, back to this idea of these two brothers, the two dueling brothers in the band. It's a little bit like Foreigner in that you know, the rest of the guys are a little bit faceless, and you don't really know about them. You know, you figure you got 5 guys in the band, it's enough to have 2 guys that you want to push forward. So at times they're trying to push as Dave the Star, as Ray the Star. You know, they're the 2 obvious leaders. But you know, not particularly photogenic, and I think it does cause some confusion in the marketplace where, you know, sometimes it's all the guys and sometimes it's one of the guys. You know?
Especially here. I mean, I was told when I did, I did a Kinks album ranking got a while ago, and I was told by a lot of folks from the UK that, like, you know, over there, they're looked at as, you know, absolute superstars, and you know, here in North America, we just never really got them. That's what I was told by many people.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, you know, I remember growing up thinking there was some hubbub around the Kinks. I mean, Low Budget had 3 or 4 or 5 songs that were on the radio constantly.
Yeah.
Give the People What They Want had the you know, the low
big hit here.
song Destroyer.
The live album sold well here. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, Give the People What They Want, I remember, had 3 or 4 hits on it. I saw them, or no, hang on, I keep forgetting that. Yeah, the Kinks are definitely one of those bands. Again, you know, I hate to slag anybody, but they're one of those bands that, like Aerosmith and like Foreigner, that people have said were very nasty to their support acts. And I remember Doc Neeson from Angel City telling me, you know,
really?
what kind of dicks they were to them. So
yeah,
but yeah, they're and obviously we just know them as well. Certainly Ray as a cranky guy. I've interviewed Dave once or twice, and he's a sweetheart. He seems to be, anyways. But you know, Ray is famously known as a pretty cranky dude, and a guy that doesn't do a lot of interviews and all that. But love his lyrics. You know, that whole vignette of life, the whole working man thing. It's like, you know, the Jam is one of my favorite bands of all time, and the Jam are essentially, you know, the Kinks redone for the mod revival, you know, 77 through 82 or whatever that was, right? Very small mod revival. There were like literally 5 or 6 bands. It was literally the Jam, the Quadrophenia movie, and a few bands that nobody's ever heard of, like the Chords and Secret Affair and stuff like that. But yeah, the Kinks and the Who are obviously your bands that started mod, and yeah, great lyrics, and like the songs, but usually the performance of the songs of all the players, really, and the production could have all been better. You know, it literally, I don't know what it is about them, but yeah, especially when you get into those later albums, they're really stiff sounding. I don't know why, but
yeah.
I still play them a lot.
Yeah, I do too, and I like the band a lot. I think that I don't know, the albums are really, really British sounding, and not that that's a bad thing, because I would say like 75% of the bands that I love are all from, you know, they're all British bands. But I think like the Kinks especially, it's like I said before, I think that like the way we hear them here in this part of the world and the way people from the UK hear them, it's like 2 different things. And I find like, I mean, there's people who will tell you, you know, till they die, that a lot of those early Kinks albums are as artsy and even more so than those great Beatles, Stones, and Who albums.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And
sure.
And I think there's a lot of great songs on those albums. I don't quite get that, you know, vibe, but I do appreciate these albums and I enjoy them quite a bit.
So who has the worst album covers, Fleetwood Mac or the Kinks?
I don't know.
Pretty close.
I mean, we actually said we liked a couple of the Kinks ones, so I don't know. Did we actually say we like any of the Fleetwood Mac ones? I don't even know.
Yeah, there's some shockingly bad Fleetwood Mac ones, and the Kinks ones are either just not there or okay. So the Kinks ones are all in the middle, just like their songs, right?
Yeah.
They're a middle class band with middle class album covers.
We'll let the viewers decide which is the worst here. So, all right. So we're ready for another one. This is the last one for this show, and we got more coming. So stay tuned, everybody. All right. So here we go.
Yeah.
Leonard Skinner.
Sure.
All right. So here we're going to see a lot of what Chris Allo says is what you don't do on an album cover, because you're not going to put this on a T-shirt. So, yeah, we're a new band. We're Leonard Skinner. We're ugly. We got long hair. We dress bad. Here we are in the street corner. Please buy our album, right? So, and then you got, the second album, which they're there again with some really kind of like, looks like a 3-year-old drew this, right? But and don't get me wrong, these are classic albums. But
not very tough looking for a tough band either, that one.
No, yeah, totally not. They don't even look tough on the first album either. They don't look very tough here.
Yeah,
I'd argue, because you can't really see them too well,
Yeah.
So it's almost like, you look at some of these and they could almost be confused with some of the guys from Kansas, like on their first couple albums.
Yeah. Certainly nothing fancy.
No, not at all. And then you got kind of like an almost weird pseudo-negative shot. Give me back my bullets. This should have been a really tough-looking album cover. I don't know.
Great title.
That's a great album. Yeah, I love the title. And then you got this. We didn't know at the time, but probably not a good shot for your album, considering all that happened. But even so, again, every one of these got like just pictures of them just kind of sitting, chilling out. I don't know, not very good.
And if you're survivors, why are you on fire, right?
Yeah.
And exactly. They put out a lot of those, and then they changed the cover after the crash too, right?
Yeah, they did. Perhaps their best album cover is their live album. But again, kind of weird colors on there, but great live shot. I kind of like the little road leading up to the stage.
I hate the cognitive dissonance of scratching out a word and putting another word in. Like Thin Lizzy, life with the V replaced by the F, right?
Yeah, it's like, what is it? It's like, you're trying to be clever here? I don't know. So then they come back in 1991 after many, many years, and this is the first studio album they put out. I don't know. I hate the logo. I don't know. Don't
looks
really
like
like
ZZ Top Antenna a little bit, eh?
A little bit, yeah. It just, again, looks kind of amateurish. Good album, though. Then we got the Last Rebel. I don't know what to say about this one.
Yeah.
Does it have that kind of like rootsy, cowboyish kind of thing going on? I guess so.
Kind of pretty.
Yeah.
It looks like a country album, right? Or a southern rock album. So.
Yeah. And funny enough, the Outlaws were doing kind of the same thing at the time. And here you got, Huey Thomason joining the band, right? So there you have it. Edge of Forever.
Well, the text is kind of 90s graphics, early 90s computer graphics, right?
It looks cheap, right? Looks really cheap. And again, I don't know what the train track going around the corner has to do with anything. I don't know. I don't mind this cover. I like 20. I think is pretty good. Again, you got somewhat of a cool logo up there. I don't mind that. You got the faces in the little plateau over here, okay, which you got to strain to see on the CD.
Bright Johannes colors. I think that's one of Johannes's, right? So
I think so, yeah.
What he was doing for others at the time.
Yep. So this one I don't mind, and then you've got, obviously it's sitting on some kind of leather something, right? So I don't mind this one. I think this one's pretty cool. But then we talked about this with the Eagles one the other day. So here you got Vicious Cycle. So it's obviously a gear case of something. Whatever.
Supposed to save that for your live album, right?
Yeah, exactly. Although they are kind of looking pretty cool on the back here, just hanging out and having a couple drinks, playing pool, whatever. And then we've got God and Guns.
Yeah. It's like a 45 sleeve, maybe.
Yeah, I could have thought of a million other ways they could have gone with this cover. And again, they opted not to go back to that cool logo from a few albums ago. And then you got the last one they did, which is Last of a Dying Breed. How generic can you get here?
Yeah. Wow. So they went super generic late in life, and then early it was just like band shots.
Yeah. So really not a lot of artsy stuff here in this catalog, other than maybe a couple. But just most of them are pretty forgettable. It's sad when you're saying, that their live album might be the coolest album cover they ever had, right?
And even that, I don't like the colors very much.
Yeah, the colors are a little weird. I'd argue that this is probably their coolest album cover.
Yeah. Very golf green on that live one, right?
Yeah.
And then they got the greatest hits one with the illustration of the gun, right? And then they have gold and platinum or whatever it's called, which just looks like, again, totally generic, right? What else did they have? They had another. I think they had another hits one. I think they had one with the Confederate flag. They used that early on.
Yeah, they had that. Also, they had that late '90s or late '80s live album, which had the Confederate flag on the front. That was the first, I think, reunion album that had Steve Morse guesting on a track or two on there. I forget what the name of that one's called. Very
traditional, right? And then also they're a band with a whole pile of members. So every time you take a photo of them, you got to crowd all these guys on there, so they're all small.
Yeah, the Skinner Army. That's right.
So yeah, those were pretty bad. Not offensive, just bad, right? Not ugly.
Not really living up to the greatness that are a lot of those albums, or a good chunk of them anyway. So.
Yeah, it's funny, that band, I always get a lot of heck for saying this, but like Molly Hatchet, I like their more modern heavy stuff versus their early stuff in certain ways. I mean, certainly with Molly Hatchet, like hands down. Molly Hatchet, later stuff way up here, early stuff quite a ways down. Lynyrd Skynyrd, it's a little closer, right? But, it's funny. It's a band with 3 guitarists, and to me, they always sound like they have 1.5 guitarists. I mean, they're not a very heavy band, right?
Right.
Productions are very limp, right? Very, very kind of mid-rangey and barely there. The guitars never sounded powerful at the beginning, but, that might be the idea of trying not to crowd the space when you have too many people there. But
it's interesting. It's really interesting that the whole topic of these two bands who, overcame lots of tragedy, a lot of people leaving to continue on, and in Molly Hatchet's case, with no original members at all. And people discount those albums just because of that fact. But you know what? A lot of those latter period Molly Hatchet albums are damn good, hard, heavy Southern rock. And granted, maybe they shouldn't be calling it Molly Hatchet. I don't know. That's not up to me. But I think I enjoy those albums quite a bit. And I like the later Skynyrd albums. I mean, the early ones are classics for me. But I like all these later Skynyrd albums quite a bit. I think they have a lot of great stuff on them and great playing. It's kind of the same thing for me with the Outlaws. I just did a couple Outlaws shows recently. It's like, what? The current band, Huey's gone. A lot of the other guys are gone. You got Henry Paul coming back to the band. It's kind of almost like the Henry Paul band. But the Henry Paul band was great. And I think this current incarnation of the Outlaws, they're keeping the spirit alive, and they kick ass, and they got, all these great guitar players. And it's,
Yeah, they were pretty damn mellow in the early days. Eh? They were quite light,
Yeah, they were a Southern band, but they kind of were playing like that kind of Eagles style country rock with lots of guitar firepower. That's what, and then they started.
And that same producer too, right? That Eagles producer, Jim Simzik, or however you
Bill Schmick, right? Bill Schmick, yeah.
Schmick, is that how you say it?
I think that's how he says. I don't know what.
A million consonants in his name, right?
I know. And the first couple albums had Paul Rothchild produce them, so they've had some good producers they work. And then they had the one album with Mutt Lange, Playing to Win, which is kind of a good album. So.
I saw them once, believe it or not, supporting Black Sabbath on the Mob Rules tour. One of the first concerts I ever saw, because I came from a small town, didn't see a ton of concerts early on. So I was in first year university in Vancouver, and so it was the Outlaws backing up Black Sabbath on Mob Rules.
So interesting. So I caught the other half of the tour where Outlaws were gone and Johnny Van Zant band was in.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a good Southern band. Johnny Van Zant band was good. The other really good one is Rossington Collins band. And the Alan Collins solo album. That was really good.
Really good. Yeah, really good. A lot of great Southern bands. So there you have it, guys. This is part 3. I'm going to lose track here. So part 3 of notable bands with some historically bad album covers. But stay tuned, because we've got part 4 coming up. And you'll see that tomorrow. So Martin's not going anywhere. We're going to film that and bring it to you tomorrow. So for Martin Popoff, I am Pete Pardo. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. If you like what you see here, please click on the Ko-Fi link down at the bottom and buy us a coffee or a tea or a pint of beer or whatever the hell. Doesn't really matter. I don't drink coffee, actually, so tea or beer is preferred. You want to buy a CD, that's cool, too. So, and also, we got a merchandise link, so if you want to buy a Sea of Tranquility t-shirt, hoodie, hat, cap, coffee mug, sticker. Do we have anything else? I don't even know. I losing track. So anyway, all that stuff is in the video description below. So Martin, we'll see you in a few minutes, and everybody take care. See you later. Bye-bye.